morning, beautiful people. Welcome to yet another episode of the Younib Breakfast Show with me, Peninah, Wachera. I hope you guys are woken up well and are excited to face your day. Yeah, for me, I'm very, very excited. Kwanza for the conversation we're going to have today. Yeah, and as it is the norm here at the Younib Breakfast Show, let's go straight to the morning bite of the day. It is said that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Think about the last time you were really angry. Did it help or hurt you? How do we strike a balance between expressing anger and protecting our mental well-being? This is the conversation we are having today. So today we'll be speaking about anger management and our mental health. And as usual, anytime you hear about mental health, you know that this show is proudly brought to you by Miss Ashen and Younib organization. And we're trying to reach out to the community to speak to you or to inform you on more matters about mental health. Remember, if you know of somebody or a family member, a friend who needs psychological help, you can always call the number 0700 352 250. And if you want to ask us questions here in studio, you can always interact with us through our social media platform, Younib_TV on Instagram, Younib Media TV on Facebook, and there's a number on your screen. You can SMS or WhatsApp 0719 144 144. So let's dive in to the conversation of the day. And don't forget about the hashtag. Remember to use the hashtag Younib Breakfast Show with Peninah Wachera. Yeah. So as you can see, the familiar faces are back on studio. I'm in studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
How is your morning taking you guys? How is your morning?
My morning is okay. I'm really grateful for the opportunity that we are here just to share about our mental well-being, and I'm really happy concerning the topic of the day because this is an area that many people usually struggle with. Whether anger is a positive emotion or a negative emotion, or how they can go through the situations when they are angry or somebody angers them. Yeah.
My morning is fine, Pesh. Thank you.
It's very well. I'm really excited and pumped to see where the conversation leads us and to hear what our viewers back at home have to say about the conversation.
Okay, so I'd like to introduce them to you because honestly, Messia Sautiza already. Yeah. So on my right, we have Mutembei, Muthami. On my left, we have Valentine, Ndiwa, and on my extreme left, we have Beulah, Njagi. Yeah, and we are here to just speak about anger management. Yeah. So to start us off, I'd like us to know what are some of the common triggers of anger.
Well, maybe I could start, and then my colleagues might add on to whatever I have to say. Okay, from my personal experience, I feel like the biggest trigger to anger is usually unmet expectations. What I mean by this is sometimes we go out of our way and we think about everything that we need to do. We make plans, we make schedules and all that, and then at the end of the day, other examples go out with anger. So that elicits the emotions of anger.
Anybody to add on triggers of anger?
Okay. Just to continue from where I'm thinking as well. It's about anger usually arise from the belief that we have about a particular event. If we have a positive belief about that event, we tend to feel happy. And then if we are displeased or the expected outcomes becomes negative, that is when we portray an emotion of anger. And anger doesn't come alone. It has to stem from somewhere, just like Mutembei said, an unmet expectation. Maybe since we are dealing with the youth and even the young children, maybe mom had promised to come in the evening. She had promised to bring a sweet and then she fails to bring the sweet. So what happens? You become angry from that. And for the elderly, maybe you have a girlfriend, and then the relationship doesn't last as you want it to last. What happens? Because you don't know how to react to that, you become angry. So it has to stem from different things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd just add that also it can stem from feelings of pain or discomfort. The way we always say, a hungry man is an angry man. And so sometimes your physical, sensations, whether haujalala vizuri, you can get very irritable, you can have outbursts of anger, or if you're hungry, or if you're in pain. Sometimes you find people with chronic illnesses, that the people around them might define them as irritable, but it's not because they want to be, it's just because they're experiencing quite a bit of pain and discomfort. Additionally, sometimes we also react in anger when we're feeling threatened. Again, it could be a physical threat, but more so an emotional threat. So if, we're having this conversation and I feel like you're coming for me, then I feel threatened, then it's almost a natural reaction to react in anger to try and protect myself.
Okay, interesting. And I hope viewers back at home, you're following up with this conversation, because most frequently we'll find ourselves angry at something, angry at someone, and it's important for us to know how to manage this anger, because sometimes if it becomes suppressed, it becomes a problem. Yeah, and I want us to just go there. How can someone tell that their anger is becoming a problem?
That's interesting. I feel by the time you hear your anger has become a problem, that means that a lot must have happened. Either you lash out at your friends, either you lash out at the cats, either you want to around you, it's called approachable intentional with your emotional regulation and emotional tracking. Okay, if you look at yourself over the past 2 weeks or so, how have you been dealing with your triggers? Are you more irritable? Are you more quick to anger? Do you feel like you're always on edge at the same at all? Do you feel like you're always on edge? And what are the people around you saying? Because often or not, we might not be able to see the problems that we have in our conduct, but the people around us wanaweza hapa yenyewe ni kama hauko sawa. So I feel like the first point of reference would be, what is your ego, what is your support system telling you? Do they have problems with the way you've been acting of late? How when you look at your relationships with your people, how have they changed? Do you feel like you can no longer have very calm conversations with them? Do you always you always feel that they need to assert yourself aggressively whenever you're having conversations? Basically, it's about examining the relationships and how you're interacting.
Valentine, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think Mutembei has well put how you can observe the anger situations. So most of the time, people, how you know that you're really angry is like how you're going to behave. Either it's you're going to hit a cat. Why? Because you're angry. Or there are some people who shake. It's to the extent that it's very observable that their hands are shaking, or it could be their lips are shaking, or even maybe their whole body is trembling. Why? Because they have that emotion of anger. And then there are those people who, because of their anger, you might find that they engage in risky behaviors. Maybe it could be to hit somebody's window or door, or break the TV. Yes, there are some people who have found themselves in those kind of situations because they don't know how to handle their anger.
Okay. It's interesting, and I hope our dear viewers, you're following up with what we are having this conversation, or what our psychologists here are trying to actually help us understand when it comes to matters anger management. Yeah. When I began, I asked you guys to remember or remind yourself over time that you were angry, and I'd like to pose a question or to ask you guys to send us scenarios that you remember. when you are angry, so that you can be able to tackle them, or with our psychologist here. So you just send in the scenarios, and with time, in the due course of the show, we'll be able to tackle the scenarios for you. For now, let's take this short break, and we'll be back with more. Welcome back. This is still the Younib Breakfast Show with me, Peninah, Wachera, and my able psychologist here, and we are here to help you guys tackle anger management. Yeah, remember this show is proudly brought to you by Miss Your Ashen and Younib organization, and we're trying to reach out to the community to teach you, inform you, and also help those who have psychological or who need psychological help. Yeah. So remember, if you want to contact our therapist or our psychologist, you can always get them through the number 0700 352 250, and they will be able to help you out. And you can always send in your questions or your scenarios, as I had asked in the first segment, and through our social media platforms. That's Younib_TV on Instagram, Younib Media TV on Facebook, and there's a number on your screen. You can SMS or WhatsApp 0719 144 144. Let's get back to the conversation of the day. So, Beulah, what are some of the effective techniques to control anger in the moment?
Right, that's a good question. Sometimes we like to ask and dig around. Just coming off the question you had asked Mutembei on, at there times when anger is dangerous. So it's important to know that if the way you react, as Valentine was telling us, if you're destructive to yourself, to others, to property, or if it's been a long time thing that's happening, in those cases, it is advised that you seek a professional. And I mean, it would be nice to have a conversation on, why you react that way or why you're triggered that way. But if you're talking about just the day-to-day, moments where you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, as it's said, my mom used to say, if you wake up on the wrong side, go back. Make sure you wake up on the right side. But in certain instances, we can lean on breathing. We always talk about breathing. And it's because it's such a powerful tool that you have with you always, and that you have with you for free, thank God. You're not in hospital where you're on a gas tank. And so just take a moment, breathe calmly. So we can use the square breathing that we've talked about, or you could try breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 8 seconds hadi you feel hewa yote imeisha. Or try and count from 1 to 10 or 10 to 1 or from 100 to wherever you can get. So all of these things are what we call grounding exercises. Sometimes you can also try and focus on your senses. So you take a moment away from what you're thinking and the heat of the emotion, and you're like, okay, what are 5 things I can see? What are 4 things I can hear? What are 3 things I can feel? 2 things I can smell? 1 thing I can taste? So leaning on those grounding exercises. Sometimes, if it's possible, it's recommended that you can just, as politely as you can, just request to walk away for a few minutes. You can take a walk, uende kwa washroom, or splash some cold water, calm down, take a few steps, do jumping jacks, like just get your body moving a bit and get yourself back into yourself. If it's not possible for you to actually take a leave from that situation for a moment, then you can lean into the breathing and into the counting, which is just a way of slightly getting your brain off of the intensity of the moment to focus on something else, to come back into yourself, and then you try and respond or try and find a way of postponing whatever situation was happening there. So you could request, you could say, Peninah, I'm not able to talk about this right now, but just give me 5 minutes. I will come back and we can have this conversation, just so that you don't have to react in anger.
Okay, interesting. And I hope people will be able to take notes and use these techniques, to be able to help them not suppress their anger, but also try to just be in the moment and not make actions that will destroy their relationships after they get angry. So it's good, and I hope they have taken notes of that. Anyway, Mutembei, can regular exercise or certain activities really help reduce anger over time?
This is quite interesting because I feel like this is one of those scenarios where the doctor is going to tell you an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but in real sense, you eating 1 apple every single day will still feel you still pause. So whether or not the regular exercises are going to help with your anger management is it boils down to what are you doing yourself as a person. Are you going to unaenda kwa hizi exercises unatoka mpio yako yote tu up until to the point where you're out of breath, and then that's when you stop and actually catch some breath and then continue running. It's not just about you doing the exercises, but it's also about you listening to your own body. Like example could be when you feel amesema you can do the jumping jacks. While you're doing the jumping jacks, where is your mind at? Ama unaruka tu kikienda nitapiga huyo mtu mwingine. So it's not just about exercising or moving your body, it's also about being intentional. And I feel like I've been very, very keen and very deep on talking about intent when it comes to your mental health. So it's not just about you moving or you trying to go for boxing, because it's at the end of the day, it's all about the intention that you put in. Because let's look at a scenario where, let's say I am exercising and Beulah is also exercising, but mimi nimekasirika, so nikienda punch that boxing bag, I'm trying to it's more like I'm training for how I'm going to throw the punches. While Beulah is just taking all the anger and just releasing it onto the punching bag. At the end of the day, I'm now psyched to go beat up somebody because at least nimechangamsha mwili. But maybe for Beulah, just because of that tension that she had and the way she was able to get herself in that moment of anger and just release it out. But at the end of the workout, she's going to feel relaxed, she's going to have let out all that bad energy, as opposed to me who's just been sitting with it and just wondering, so back to our conversation. In regards to anger management, it's not just about exercise. You can also incorporate certain aspects of the techniques that Beulah has said, the breathing techniques, the counting, the excusing yourself. At the end of the day, you're not just relying on the exercises to better manage your anger.
Okay, I like the way that you guys are saying that we should be more intentional on what we are thinking as we are doing that, rather than just being in the moment of the anger. So it's interesting, and I hope people should understand that you take your mind somewhere else, so that those techniques and even the exercise exercises you do can be able to work. Yeah. Valentine, can you tell us how anger affects personal and professional relationships?
Anger affects professional and personal development I would say in a negative way, because I would want you to imagine a scenario having this boss who is welcoming, happy on the face, and this who is very gloomy and sad. Which one would you feel comfortable approaching?
The happy one.
Of course, the happy one. So it does to a great extent, because it makes, when people usually see you angry most of the time, the kind of emotion that you portray to them is like the emotion of fear. Some people fear you because of the kind of emotion that you usually portray. You might find that something sensitive might happen, but because they are afraid of you, they'll not be able to share that information, because they are afraid that you become angry and you may end up doing something which is not good to them. So that in personal and professional relationships, it can make people avoid you because of how you behave towards them. So people need to know how to really manage their anger. Remember, anger is an emotion that cannot, you can't treat it, like say the way you can take a Panadol and treat maybe a headache, and then goes, maybe you take maybe 10 years or 5 or maybe a month to get that headache back. So this is an emotion that is with you, and you will always find yourself in situations whereby people will always step on your toe, people will always backbite you. So how are you going to react to that situation? So if you're this kind of a person who is always gloomy, angry, people will tend to avoid you, and you will end up missing a lot of things. Yeah.
Awesome. I hope guys have seen the effect of you not having anger, yeah, and you suppressing your anger. For now, as we are taking this short break, I'd like you guys to take this opportunity and send us your scenarios. What are those times that unakumbuka enye ilikufanya you get so angry? Send us through our social media platform. For now, let's take this short break and we'll be back with more. Younib Breakfast Show, and I want to sample some of your questions and your scenarios. And before that, and there's this question that we've gotten from our viewer: is there positive anger?
That's a good question. Anger is an emotion, and like all emotions, I like to say there's no good or bad emotions. It's just that some feel pleasant and we're happy to feel them, and some feel unpleasant and we are uncomfortable around them. But it's not that they're good or bad. I once had this from someone that emotions they're like an indicators kwa gari. You know those two lights that blink up kwa dashboard that tell you, hey, you need to add fuel, or oh, maji ya windshield imeisha. I don't know if that shows, but the point is they simply come to show you what's happening in your internal world. So anger in and of itself is not a bad thing, but how you express it is what can be dangerous or harmful to yourself and to other people, which is now why we're having this conversation, because we need to realize if you're constantly angry, then maybe you need to sit with someone and see what is this anger actually trying to say to you. What is happening inside? What is it indicating, that maybe needs a bit of work, and then you can also experience, in equal measure, the other emotions, most of the pleasant ones. And if you are not in that category, then it's how can you express that anger you're feeling in a way that helps you and does not harm either you or other people. Yeah.
So anger serves as a checker.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, so I just want to go straight to the scenarios that we've gotten. I'll start with, you've worked hard on a project, but during a meeting, your boss criticizes it in front of your colleagues. You feel embarrassed and furious. How can you respond professionally without letting anger take over?
Okay, I would say, since it's in a meeting, and the boss is the one that is criticizing you, remember that you cannot talk back at your boss, or maybe throw your hands, or maybe abused. So for that person, I would say, maybe since the boss has said that whatever you did was kind of nothing, it will be good for you to take a time out to the bathroom. Maybe if you feel like crying, you can let out that emotion. And then after that, you can go back and maybe say to the boss and work on it. But sometime later, when not everybody is in the meeting, maybe you can meet your boss and get to tell him or her that you as a person did not feel good when he or she said whatever she had said in front of everyone. It made you feel bad, so that your boss maybe can know how to handle the situation next time. He doesn't get to tell something like that to you.
Okay. I hope that helps. Next scenario, your partner repeatedly forgets something important to you, like an anniversary or a promise they made. You feel disrespected and angry. How do you express your frustrations in a healthy way without escalating the argument?
I like the way Valentine has taken into account that you're supposed to communicate whenever your boundaries are crossed. Because at times you find that somebody is going to push your boundaries, someone is going to cross your boundaries, and then you keep quiet. And then they do it a second time, they do it a third time. So that by the time you find you ushachemka, ushablow. So in the event that maybe this is your last person, this is somebody who's really close to you, they missed your birthday, they missed your anniversary, it's important to take the conversation with them. From here, I understand that sometimes life gets busy and all that, and sometimes you might miss important dates, but it's not really about, it's not the truth of the matter, or the intensity of the matter. It's not that she forgot the birthday, it's basically what it meant to me. So you find that sometimes you go talk to somebody, you're feeling angry or you're feeling very disappointed because they missed an important day in your life, and they fail to understand why it's so significant for you. I mean, it's just a date. And simply just because that we see that second anniversary does not totally disqualify the fact that now you've been married for 2 years. So from them, there's a anaonanikama, it's just a date. I mean, it's any other day, it's just a random Tuesday. but for you it holds emotional value for you, and that's why you're feeling angry. So before you even express your emotions to the person who you feel that has crossed you, you need to ask yourself, why is this so important to me? Why is it that I was angry simply because my loved one did not communicate the information? Am I angry because of the repercussions the miscommunication has brought about, or am I angry because whatever that they did not do had a lot of emotional regard? I had placed it as okay, whatever it is that they did not do, I had placed it as with high emotional regard, and that's why I'm feeling disappointed. So before you also go out and solve your frustrations, pia wewe mwenyewe kati nielewe ni nini mbona nimekasirika na nini naweza fanya next time to meet this person halfway. That is in the event that maybe it's just the knowledge of the bit. So kuna watu wanasahau mingi. But so that does not mean that you will always keep getting angry every single time that you forget. Because it's going to get to a point of like, sasa tuone kama atasahau this time round. Then as wanasahau, then you get mad.
So they have to communicate and do it prudently.
Yes, you have to communicate on a regular basis. That you also need to understand that any given point with your loved ones or with your spouses or with your friends, kwa mko wapi, isikuwe tu siku moja unalipuka hapo unasema na hii ndio situation inatokea.
Okay. I hope we are taking notes. The next one, you tend to keep your anger inside, but after a long period of stress, you explode over something minor. How can you recognize and address your emotions before reaching that breaking point?
That's a good one. I think that's a very common thing that happens to majority of us. Yeah. And the thing is, sometimes it's important to note that sometimes anger is actually a secondary emotion, right? So it's the feeling that comes to mask or carry the other feelings that you're having that you feel are maybe too vulnerable to experience or express. And so it's easier to just go straight into anger than saying, oh, I'm sad or I'm hurt or I'm feeling, embarrassed. So in those cases, it's highly recommended that you keep checking in with yourself. When you feel a feeling, just acknowledge, oh, okay, I'm feeling this way. Where is it from? Okay, what does it need from me? Maybe I just need to stand, Mutembei kidogo, or I take a sip of water, depending on whatever it is or whatever has caused. So that way, if you're constantly checking in and addressing whatever emotions you're feeling, it's like you're emptying the bottle constantly. The example I like to give, it's like if you put a balloon kwa tap ya maji, sita dry, yanze kuswell. What happens ikifika, capacity yake? It will burst, which is exactly what this person is describing. There's so many emotions that are just put in zinambiana, songa. There's another one coming, and they're not being dealt with, such that eventually it will get to that point. Unakanyanga tu valve by mistake, unakuta valve mwingine haujawahi ona, because the balloon has figured capacity yake ya maji. And so it's advisable, if you're constantly dealing with whatever emotion comes, and sometimes it's even fatigue, you're making sure you're resting well, you're just processing what happens as it's happening, then you find that you're constantly emptying the balloon. Haiko kwa tap tu ikija, unamwaga kiasi, and so you won't get to that point where you're erupting. Yeah, so the long and short is find a way of processing, expressing, experiencing those day-to-day emotions that come so that you don't get to that point.
Okay, thank you so much for this scenario. I know there are a lot of scenarios, actually. I have a lot of scenarios here, but because of time, we cannot be able to answer or to give our side or the psychological side of these scenarios, but they are good scenarios, which I know each day. These are just daily routines that we have been experiencing at work, when we are traveling back home or going to work, in our day-to-day lives, So I'd like just to take a minute from each of you and ask for parting shots of this conversation.
All right. I would say let's normalize starting to sit with ourselves and sit with what we are feeling and actually allow ourselves to process it. What does that look like? At least label the emotion. What am I feeling? I'm feeling happy, sad, angry, ashamed, whatever it is, name it. Then sometimes you can try and check inside your body. By then nikisikianga hivi nasikianga aje. When I'm sad, nasikianga kale kaukiwaru. When I'm angry, I just clench na nataka tu kupiga mtu zile Mutembei. You know what happens in your body. And then number 3, what does this emotion need from me? If you can try practice these 3 questions, we'll be doing the basics of learning emotional regulation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Beulah, Valentine?
For me, I would say anger is something that is with us. It's going to stay with us. But what we need to do is that we need to know how to express it in a more constructive way. So when we know how to express our anger in a constructive way, then it means that we have mastered emotion. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I would task our viewers with thinking of anger as a fire. If it's controlled and small, that you get to maybe cook your dinner, you get to light a candle, you get light. But if it's uncontrolled and raging, that's when you get wildfire enough. You cannot contain it yourself. It's now a harm to other people, it's harm to yourself. So my question to our viewers today: what kind of fire are you nurturing within you? Is it small and controlled, or is it just burning and raging?
Well, awesome. I hope we will do the assignment as Mutembei has given us. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for coming again, and you're welcome again and again and again, because every time you come here, we get more information. We get to learn something deeper about ourselves, and that is what we need for our day to day, so that we can be able to grow. Because somebody says that lack of learning will lead to no growth, and at the end of the day, we need to grow. Be it emotionally, physically, or also through our minds. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming and for helping us be able to tackle this conversation. To everyone who has made this show a success, thank you so much, Elias, for being the sound engineer and also the camera person and director. Asante sana. And thank you also to Susan Nyambura, who has been our timekeeper for the day. And to your viewers, thank you so much for always interacting with us and also sending your scenarios. They've been helpful enough, and I hope that whatever advice you've been given, you'll take to account. And remember that you can always share this conversation to somebody who you know needs it. If you know somebody who amekuwa struggle na anger issues, this is the show that you will send them the link. Tell them hapa ndo wanafaa kuona. This is a conversation that they need to see so that they can be able to help themselves. So until next time, do have a beautiful day ahead. Goodbye.